What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Quote Us Sports, the podcast where bold takes fly, stats are shaky, and accountability is non-existent. We got a loaded show today, so let's dive right into it. First up, the stage is set. The NBA Finals tip off Thursday night as the OKC Thunder square off against the Indiana Pacers in a matchup absolutely none of us predicted back in October. We're breaking down how each team got there, some key matchups, and our predictions for who takes home the hardware. After that, we're talking NBA draft, specifically the number one overall pick. According to ESPN, it might be up for grabs. We'll go through some of their proposed trade scenarios and decide which side hangs up first. And finally, we wrap up our AFC East preview with a 2-for-1 special, the New York Jets and Miami Dolphins. We'll break down the biggest questions for both squads heading into training camp, plus a few bonus nuggets from around the NFL. So grab your takes, hold the facts, and let's get into it. This is Don't Quote Us Sports. Welcome in, fellas. How are we doing on this fine Monday evening?
What's up, boys?
I got 16 milligrams of nicotine and a lot of tweet rage coming today, boys. So buckle up. We're coming in hot today.
I can see this going a couple of ways, with that being said.
Can't be good.
Rarely is with you.
Damn. No, boys, I'm excited. Hey, episode 4. Who'd have thought? We're here.
We made it. We're going to try and get through this episode with no technical difficulties for the first time. That would be big for morale.
Huge. Huge.
But guess we should jump right into it. We're kind of in a lull right now, fellas. We have NBA Finals are set. OKC in Indiana. But games don't start until Thursday, which I don't understand that scheduling at all after they were going every other day, and then they give them half a week off before game one. But
Aaron Gordon would have loved that break.
But it seems like both these teams are pretty healthy, so they didn't really need a whole lot of downtime in between series, but I'm sure they're not going to complain too much about it. But what a matchup. I think I can speak for all of us. I think we could all envision OKC being here, but to say Indiana was even a realm of possibility, I think that's quite the stretch.
I think we predicted it right. Urban and I got it right, didn't we?
2 guys called it right on this podcast. Just throwing that out there.
I said I remember saying I wanted. There was love for Minnesota and Anthony Edwards, but I was leaning to this was going to be it.
I'm talking about way back when the season started. None of us thought Indiana was going to be where they're at.
It's the home of basketball, baby. You gotta give them a little love.
Mm-hmm. Home of Larry Bird.
I'm not saying I will give the caveat. These since January 1st, these are the 2 best teams record-wise in the NBA. So we are actually getting the best of the best, if we go by that statistic. And I think Indiana has proven that they deserve this opportunity. Some people will say they got kind of lucky throughout the playoffs, just with their shooting and whatnot. But hey, sometimes you just get hot at the right time, and damn, did they pick the right time, right?
Lucky? We're going to call the Indiana Pacers lucky? I get what you're saying about the shot efficiency and all that. Let's not forget that they railroaded the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were by and far the hottest team going into the playoffs. Easily.
You're talking about the Cavs that had an injured Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell trying to carry that entire squad.
It's a team sport for a reason.
Okay, so it's a team sport, but it gets discounted when 2 of your best players are injured.
I'm hearing a lot of excuses. All I know is the Indiana Pacers are playing for the trophy. Called it.
I'm just pointing out facts. That's all.
I think the Pacers, man. I think they play. Urban and I have talked about it, but I think they play such crazy collectively. I think the other day that game-winning game they had 6 or 7 of the players were in double figures. Nobody was too crazy. Nobody had a crazy night. It was just didn't matter who was taking the shots. Didn't matter who was hitting them. And I think the starters when they were on the field, they were all in plus. As with the Knicks, it was I think like when Brunson was on the floor, your guys' favorite defender. I
Nobody
think he was
said
like
that.
minus 20. So just all came out to play. Pacers won. Tyrese Halliburton to the finals, baby.
Yeah, the one thing I am interested in with this matchup is how Indiana's pace is going to play against OKC. OKC won, just for background, won both regular season matchups. One was a little bit closer. One was classic OKC thumping. But you could kind of say that about OKC against anybody in the Eastern Conference this year. But Indiana is all about pace. Like their transition game um, did a lot of damage in that New York series, and I obviously don't think those opportunities are going to be. They're going to be a lot harder to come by in this series.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was trying to look through the series, and I was just trying to see some outliers, some stats that kind of caught me by surprise. And the biggest thing that caught me by surprise was points off turnovers, and that leads into the fast break. But the Pacers had 140 points off turnovers during that series, to New York 61. So when you talk about an 80 point difference off points off turnovers, it's a hot mess to deal with. That's some tough D into some fast break. It'll be interesting. I agree. I think OKC likes to play fast. I could see Indiana slowing it down a little bit, playing a little bit more better defense. But I think we're in for a crazy series, and I'm hoping for a really really good series.
I think we should hit at the elephant in the room, though. From an NBA perspective, how upset are they that they're stuck with an OKC and Indiana NBA Finals matchup?
Adam Silver's air punching
From our,
right now. He's doing one of those right now. He's pissed. The NBA is livid. But boy, are those two stadiums, arenas, whatever you want to call them, going to be rocking. It's going to be exciting. Rob, I think you're right. I think we're going to see a crazy, crazy series. Two small market teams saying we built it from within, which, I mean, they technically did for the Pacers are a little bit different. They got Hallie so young, but the addition of Siakam, a lot of their guys, though, they brought in. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great NBA Finals. I tell you what, though, I'm betting unders because both teams have suffocating defense. I'm betting unders on this Finals.
sorry. Did you say Indiana has a suffocating defense?
Yeah, at times. Maybe not the entire game, but at times. They absolutely stymied the New York Knicks. The Knicks didn't know what to do with themselves in the half court in the last game.
I think that was more byproduct of the Knicks offense and Jalen Brunson loving to hold the ball for 20 seconds.
I think you need to watch two dudes named Obi
That's
Toppin
been him all year, baby.
and Neesmith. Toppin and Neesmith's defense is incredible. Yeah, I'm going to call the Indiana Pacers defense that they showed in the Eastern Conference Finals suffocating at times, which I think they can do. Give me Neesmith on Caruso. Let's do it.
If you say so. I just never thought of them as stoppers.
I think they are.
I agree with I agree with Herb on they can definitely play defense, and it's a bunch of cats like Neesmith, Nebhard. I think had 6-7 steals the other day in that game. Some of those guys just stepping up, getting you those is going to lead to victory. But as far as how the NBA feels, I don't think the Pacers have ever had any rings, right?
Mm-mm.
And it's arguably the home of basketball, obviously. So I think it's good for the sport in the grand scheme of things. But as far as OKC, I think they might have had a ring, either ABA or back in the 70s when it was the Supersonics. But I think both teams are going for their first ring, which I think is good. And also OKC is there to stay. They're building a new arena, I think, there in the next few years. So it's not like they're in that spot where they may not even be there in 3 years. So I think if they do end up winning it, it'll be good for the city, for whatever they got going on down there. But from a marketability standpoint, it's not the same as it was when it was, when it was the
Boston
Heat
and
series from
Lakers.
years ago or the Lakers. You're just not getting that market that you're getting there. But I still think you can't be mad about this series. I think this series is going to be a good series.
I tell you what,
Yeah,
this
I'm really hoping.
this is going to sound a little nuts. If I don't know how much you guys watched Obi Toppin play, and it breaks my heart as a true Drake alum to be excited about a Dayton guy. Okay, but we're getting excited about a Dayton guy here. Obi Toppin played out of his mind in the last game. If they can get that out of him, the Pacers might be sneaky.
Yeah, I think Indiana's definitely going to need their secondary scorers to step up and continue playing as well as they have thus far. Since Hallie is going to get a lot of focus, and Pascal will also get a lot of the focus on the offensive side. They're going to need to hit some shots when necessary.
Yeah, I think Vegas again. I think Vegas has OKC just favored by 1 million. I think it was minus 800 to win the series or something like that, which I think is one of the largest favorites in the NBA Finals history.
Goodness.
Um, so I think it's an uphill battle already from the Pacers, but I think the series will come down to mismatches and matchups. For instance, Siakam's going to have to step up. If he has Chet on him, he's going to have to step up. Um, just guys like that. In order for the Pacers to win that uphill battle, they're going to have the Neesmiths, the Nebhards. Those guys come out and get you double figures and play good D in order to have a shot against the Thunder.
And continue to shoot as well as they have first 3 rounds.
Hey Rob, you think your
Yeah, I
boy
didn't realize.
you think your boy Tony Bradley is going to be the difference? You're a big Tony Bradley guy, if I remember correctly.
Nah, he doesn't
Damn.
have to do much, I don't think.
Damn.
I mean, who's he going to guard? Hartenstein?
Yeah, probably.
I'm not worried about down low for OKC. I'm more worried about their guard, their 1 through 3 play rather than their 4 and 5. Chet's great. I think he has potential. I mean, he's probably going to go out and get you, 16 to 20. But I don't think that should be the Pacers' focal point of stopping them, right? I think that if they want to stop them, they got to stop SGA and the Jalen Williams of the world and the Dorts of the world in order to win that series. If they let Chet get 19, 18, I think they're fine with that as long as they can stop, for instance, SGA from getting 36.
Yeah, it's just so hard to pick against the Thunder at this point. Like, it does not feel like their armor has been cracked yet this year. Um, there's just no reason for me to bet against them. So I know personally I'm leaning that way. I hope for a good series. I hope we get essentially the Eastern Conference Finals, just a rerun of that, only NBA Finals, because that series was electric with the back and forths and roller coaster endings that they had. But and as long as it's not the Western Conference Finals, where 4 of the games were 30+ point blowouts, like nobody wants to see that. We want, like Rob constantly is preaching, we just want good basketball to watch after a long day's work.
Yep.
So I'll probably be picking Thunder in 5. I'll give them a nice little gentleman's sweep. I just feel like their defense is just gonna put Hallie and the rest of Indiana in a chokehold.
Yeah, I think the first 2 games are at OKC.
Yep.
So in order for the Pacers to have a shot in hell, they need to come out of that. They need to win one in OKC. They need to go back to Indiana having a 1-1 series. If they go down 2-0, it's a slippery slope from there, at least in my eyes. But yeah, like you said, I want good basketball. If I don't have skin in the game, I just want good series. If I see a 3-3 series and we get a game 7, I'll be very, very happy. But I want to cheer for Tyrese, but I have it similar to you, probably a 4-1, 4-2 type beat unless we just get some crazy play out of Indiana. I think OKC is just too much to stop at this point.
And or before you give your pick, I will preface this by saying, although I am picking the Thunder to win in 5, I will be rooting for the Pacers to win every single game because I just love the underdog. I love the Cinderella story of it all. Plus,
Well, and you just
I
got
just love the
that ass
postseason
spanked.
that Hallie said.
You just got that ass spanked.
No, that would work.
by
That would work
OKC.
better for. That would work better for a Wolves fan. Then I can at least say we lost to the NBA champs, right?
That is the way to think about it. Yeah, if you lose to a team, for instance, the NFL, if you lose to a team and they go on to win the Super Bowl, aka the Packers losing to the Eagles, you have a little bit of an excuse in there being like, hey, we lost to the Super Bowl champions, man. We can,
Exactly. Like, I can rest my hat on that.
Where's your fandom? Where's your fandom?
Fuck you.
Herb,
What
You
do
gotta
mean,
hate
where's
those
my
guys.
fandom?
You should
I feel
hate
like if you
OKC.
ask any sports fan that same exact question, they'd say the same thing.
Isaiah,
you got to give
Minnesota's
Herb a little cushion here.
The Timberwolves' path is through OKC for the next 10 years. You got to hate those guys.
Herb's teams just aren't as familiar with the playoffs as maybe yours and I, so you got to keep in mind he's not as used to that.
It's so
Yeah,
disrespectful.
he only knows the play-in, and that's it.
We love the plan.
He's the talk of Herb's fandom is who we picking number 1 overall this year. Is kind
Hell
of
yeah, baby.
who we're getting.
Hell yeah. My prediction.
Speaking
Vince Youngs of the world.
No.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. No. Go ahead, please. Please continue. No. My fandom. Go ahead. It hurts so much.
No, give your prediction.
Oh, okay. Thank you. While I am going to take OKC in 6 games, I think Halliburton and the boys steal one in Oklahoma City. Surprisingly, Oklahoma City 4-2. Don't be surprised. I won't be surprised if the Pacers somehow pull it off.
I feel like it would be pretty surprising, though.
Won't be shocked. I'll tell you that much.
I feel like a lot of things would have to break the right way for them.
I think something as well is OKC is also going to have over a week off, right? Their last game was last Wednesday. So that can go one of two ways. Either you come back a little rusty or you come back rejuvenated, legs back under you, got all that recovery that you needed, and you get right back to it.
Well, I was listening to Alex Caruso on Part of My Take this morning, and he actually said the opposite. He kind of wished that the series just kept going, just keep playing the games. Just like he doesn't like the break in between at all.
No, he wants to get to summer vacation.
Yeah, I think that fits into that first one. That fits to the first one. Maybe take a week off, 2 weeks off. You come back a little rusty. Those shots aren't falling like the rhythm that you had before. I think I'd probably lean a little bit more that way too if I was in that scenario. Especially if you don't have any looming injuries. Like if you had someone that tweaked their ankle and you want them to get back healthy, I don't think OKC has anything like that. I think they're pretty healthy overall.
Plus, these guys want to get on with their summer vacation as well. They don't want to keep stretching this for another month.
Hey, Cancun's calling, baby. Cancun's calling.
Mm-hmm. But guys, switching gears, I was reading ESPN at work today, and they had posted an article about hypothetical trades for the number 1 overall pick, which I think we are all in agreement will not happen. There's probably a negative chance of it happening. We think Dallas would be very stupid if they did that. But I do think it would be kind of an interesting or fun exercise to just go through these and then kind of ask ourselves who hangs up first, because some of these trades, I will preface by saying, are god-awful. But get you talking a little bit, I suppose.
Hit me.
The what-ifs. So the first hypothetical we have is Dallas trades the first overall pick to the San Antonio Spurs. In return, they get the second overall pick in this year's draft, the 14th pick in this year's draft, the Atlanta Hawks 2027 first, and they get their swap rights back to their own first round pick in 2030. So essentially, it is 3 first round picks, picks, and their first round pick swap back for the first overall pick. And on the flip side, San Antonio is obviously doing this so they can pair Cooper Flag and the Freak. I guess not the Freak. What do we call him? The Alien? Victor Wembanyama together.
He is
for
an alien.
the next decade.
Hit him, Rob.
I mean, off the jump, I think the Spurs don't even pick up the phone and make this call. Popovich is still in the building. It's not the Popovich way of doing things. Also, if you look at the Spurs depth chart, I don't think they're in a bad spot where they need to go get a Cooper Flag. I mean, you got Keldon Johnson. You have a few others at that that power forward / shooting forward, maybe even center position that you're going to fill. You have Victor. You have a guy that Irv's big on is Sochan. Devin Vassell. I don't know that need of we can add Cooper Flag to this roster is worth giving up. Not only you're swapping first and second, we can get that out of the way, but giving up a 14th, another first, and then swapping in 2030, it doesn't need to happen. I just don't see it happening. I mean, obviously it would benefit the Mavericks heavily because they still get their guy too if they have their eyes on another guy. I don't know if it makes sense from the Spurs perspective. I don't know if they're that jumpy. If I don't know how to compare it to an NFL team, but the Spurs are all about tradition and kind of what they do is how they do things. And something like this would really, really surprise me from the Spurs perspective.
Yeah,
I think from the flip side, from Dallas's perspective, they have a window now with Anthony Davis, and I know Kyrie's injured and he's on a player option, but they have a very small window. It's probably like maybe 3 years max. Can they really afford to give up Cooper Flag, who we all think can come in, plug and play from the start, and kind of, at worst, be an above average NBA player, and at best, he's on the pathway to stardom? Like, I don't think they have within their time frame, the timeline that they currently have, where that makes sense. Because I don't think Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey, or I don't even know who the 4th overall pick or 4th rated prospect is after that, if they could come in and provide that instant level of impact that they need.
Yeah, I would agree
Irv,
with
you
both
want to give your take
guys.
on it?
I would agree with both you guys in a big, big way. Spurs aren't even going to take that phone call. Now, I think it would get interesting if you include those picks with Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, or both. Then you start to have more of a conversation of, can we do this? But just straight 4 picks or 3 picks in a swap, it's not going to get you Cooper Flag.
No.
I do want to add before we move on, and this will go into Dallas's side of the things through all these trade scenarios, but the reason I think Dallas stays is I think Anthony Davis is there, and I think he has a player option in 2027. And the cap hit would be like 60-something million, so they could move off of him at that time. Who better to learn under if you're a young cat in the league than a Cooper Flag ass who he's being compared to Anthony Davis, than have him come in and learn how to be an NBA, learn the ropes of the NBA, the ins and outs from a guy that they're saying your game is kind of modeled after. Give him 2-3 years with him, and then I think eventually Kyrie and Anthony Davis right into the sunset, and then it's a young team again, and we see Dallas be Dallas.
Hard to trade a future cornerstone of your entire franchise. I mean, you're looking at a similar path of Kawhi Leonard, with Kawhi going on to the Spurs and playing with Timmy and Manu and all those guys, Tony Parker as well. And then he becomes a superstar. I think Cooper Flag, provided he's going to Dallas, which I think all three of us understand is probably going to happen more than likely. That's not a bad spot for Cooper to be.
And I will say, during this exercise, the closest example or comparison I could find to a scenario like this was back, I think it was the 94 draft when no, that might have been too late, but it was the Chris Webber draft where he went first overall after the career he had in Michigan. The Magic had the first overall pick, and they had Shaq, and they traded the first overall pick, moved back down to 3, where they drafted Penny. That's the closest, because I think I would still probably rank Flag above where Weber was at that point, but they were still both very, very highly sought after prospects at that point. But out of however long the NBA has been around, that's the closest comparison I find.
And if Kyrie and Anthony Davis were 5-6 years younger, 4 years younger, they could play around a little bit. But when both of those guys are approaching 30, 33, 34, 35 pretty quickly, you got to start thinking about, okay, who's going to be the face of this franchise? Especially getting rid of Luka. Who's going to be the face of this franchise coming up? And I think it has to be Cooper.
You imagine if they still had Luka to pair with all that?
The NBA wouldn't have let them get the first overall pick if they still had Luka.
Well, that's true. So Spurs hang up. Spurs ain't touching that one.
I think it's
Dallas. Excuse me, Dallas is hanging up that one. Who else is calling, I said?
The trade that I thought was the most intriguing out of them all was between Dallas and Phoenix. So Dallas would receive Devin Booker, the 29th pick in this year's draft, a 28 and 29 first round pick swap. Phoenix would get Cooper Flag, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, and Caleb Martin.
Let's hear from the man who had a Stoudemire jersey at 9 years old.
Phoenix ain't picking up this phone call, brother. I don't know what you want me to do with Nani Marshall, Caleb Martin, and a 38-year-old Klay Thompson, but that is
Cooper
not
Flag.
enough to get
and
Devin
Cooper
Booker.
Flag, brother.
Okay, but what have we talked about? We're giving away first-round picks that we don't even have already.
Technically, they're pick swaps, so you do keep a first-round pick.
We're giving away, pick swaps, and then the 29th pick for Devin Booker. I think, obviously, he's going to go down as our franchise's best player in history, just by the grand scheme of it.
Sir Steve Nash would like a word.
Okay, but career franchise leader. Steve Nash never went to the NBA Finals. And as a Phoenix fan, I think Steve Nash should have probably not got one out of those 2 MVPs, and that's me being biased. Should have said Steve Nash should have got both, but
he did get both.
Yeah,
there goes our Canadian viewership.
You look up the stat wise. Devin. I love Steve Nash. He's 90% of the reason I became a fan. I'm just a realist and understand what Devin Booker is to the franchise. But moving the needle wise, I mean, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Nani Marshall, and Caleb Martin doesn't move the needle even a little bit in order to make that happen.
Now, let me throw this at you, Rob. You ready for this one? Yeah, get you a little sip there. You're right. All right. We've talked about the Suns' best move is to get off one of these big contracts. Bradley Beal's contract, probably immovable at this point. They've talked about shopping KD. KD's talked about going to a winner. If that's KD instead of Devin Booker, does that change your mind?
No, I'm fine getting off KD. KD isn't a
I'm
focal
saying,
point of our franchise.
So I'm saying if KD is the player with the exact same layout, but KD is the guy, you're saying yes as the Suns in a hurry?
Yeah, I would just immediately release Klay Thompson, Caleb Martin, and Nani Marshall. I have nothing to do with. I don't need.
You keeping PJ on all those
I guess
guys?
they can ride the bench.
Technically, you do need a lot of bench players in Phoenix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good on that. But also, from a
Like getting out of
realism
Klay,
standpoint, they're not going to
maybe.
give up a number 1 overall pick for KD.
If their window truly is 2 to 3 years and that is their main focal point and they're not thinking about building a franchise after whatever this is, then yeah, they run to the phone to make that phone call if I'm the Dallas Mavericks. Because I get KD.
I'm pretty sure KD. Does KD even want to play with Kyrie again?
That we don't know. I mean, there's a lot there.
People forget last time he played together, Kyrie was out there throwing out anti-semantics.
I'm a Kyrie fan here, brother, so I'm not going to put any word on Kyrie's name.
I'm just saying. Just point it out.
Wow. Yeah, no, but that'd be interesting.
We all know KD's going to OKC, bro.
You've claimed that. We'll see what happens.
What would that KD to OKC trade even look like, do you think? Just a ton of picks?
Ton of
picks. It basically fills a need for both of us. We need to get off some contracts, and we need picks. They have a plethora of picks and a team that can win now, and KD kind of adds to that. It'd probably take at least three picks, I would imagine.
I bet
you'd
be
more than that. I'd rather get off Beal, obviously.
I bet you'd take 5 to 6 first rounders to get KD. Because it's KD.
Nah, not at this. He's what? 37 now, Rob? 36,
37, 38. Yeah.
You seen him score
I don't know if you're getting
though?
that many picks for him anymore.
Whew. That boy can score.
I'm just trying to think of what that lineup would be that OKC would run out. Their starting lineup. It would be SGA, J-Dub, KD, Chet, Hardenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a monster lineup. The shortest starter is 6'7".
That is the monster.
You're telling me that doesn't sound appealing?
That is crazy.
You're telling me that doesn't sound appealing? Plus, you have a plethora of bench players that can come in and score.
And again, those guys,
we
talked
about include them in that trade.
Those guys are locked in for 2 to 3 years, their main core. And all you got to do is give up picks and maybe maybe the Lou Dort, right? Maybe one of the Williams, but not Jalen, obviously. But
just when you think about a trade that can actually happen, I'm looking at it from both sides and make sure it benefits both sides. And that trade, if it makes OKC a little bit better and it helps Phoenix's situation out a lot. I don't want to get off KD. I'd rather get off Beal if I had to choose. But if it happens, I'm not mad about it.
Okay, let's pull it back to the first overall pick. I'll throw out this last one, which is the most absurd one out of all of them.
It's insane.
ESPN
it's absolutely insane.
ESPN had to throw a little 4-teamer action into this because that happens all the time in the NBA. But they have Dallas receiving Donovan Mitchell, the Los Angeles Lakers 2031 first, and then a 28 and 2030 pick swap with the Lakers. Cleveland would get Cooper Flagg, Javon Carter, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, PJ Washington, and Daniel Gafford. So pretty much an entire roster of players. The Lakers, for everything, would get Jared Allen. And Chicago gets thrown in here as well. They would get Dalton Connect, Caleb Martin, and 3 second-round picks that nobody cares about. I just want to know sometimes what the hell these ESPN reporters are taking to even come up with something like that.
It's called marijuana. Comes in a gummy form.
We're not even in the realm of possibilities anymore.
It's a lot.
Uh, there's
Can
a
I
lot of
go
moving pieces there, but go ahead.
as the Bulls fan here? Okay, obviously none of this trade happens. The Lakers would be happy as a clam to get Jared Allen. Sure, Donovan Mitchell's not going anywhere. The Cavs aren't going to blow this thing up for Cooper Flag. They're just not going to do it. But as a Bulls fan, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean it in any disrespectful fashion. I don't mean it in any way other than saying stop collecting white dudes that can shoot. Please. You can only have so many of those guys on the court at one time. They can't play center. Okay, I stop, please. Dalton Connect's a phenomenal player. I don't need another Josh Giddey on the roster. I don't need it. I don't want it. I have no interest in it. I'm so sick of what the Bulls are doing.
When they traded for Giddey last year, he couldn't shoot for shit. Just saying.
Correct.
He was busy doing other things.
Hey,
but also the Dallas side of it. I mean, if I'm looking at it from a just team by team basis, I don't understand how Dallas benefits in this trade. You're giving up the number 1 overall pick, and you're getting basically Donovan Mitchell and a couple 20-30s picks. That seems like
a win now.
Not as much get back as I just. And you're starting Kyrie and Donovan Mitchell both. I mean, both of them love to be the primary ball handlers. So I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think whoever wrote this said, "Hey, let me write this little blog and put something out there that's going to get the people talking." It doesn't make much sense, and that's this one.
See, I just didn't think. The second I saw it from a Lakers perspective, I was just like, that doesn't make any sense. So essentially, they get Jared Allen, but they'd have to give up Dalton Connect, Gabe Vincent, and their 2031 first, which I think is their only first round pick that they control through the next 6 years, and then 2 pick swaps. I don't think Jared Allen is worth that.
I think they almost gave up Dalton Connect for old boy out of the Hornets.
Mike Williams, baby. Mike Williams. Mark Williams. Excuse me.
Mark Williams.
So I think I think Jared Allen's definitely a step above Mark. I think the Lakers, that's been the story of the last 5 years, ever since Dwight Howard years have been drawn, that they've needed a center, and obviously Anthony Davis didn't want to play center. Gabe Vincent's kind of a throw-in for me. I don't know if that really impacts it at all, but yeah, I don't know. This trade's weird.
Yeah, the only one who really wins in that whole thing is the Lakers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wild.
They're essentially just giving Cleveland a shit ton of players that they'd have to cut almost every single one of them to make room on their roster.
Yep.
Just stupid. Okay, we can stop talking about it.
It's a bad one.
Let's jump into that.
Dallas ain't trading that pick.
No. 0.00000% chance. But time for our favorite sport. Drum roll, please. To the NFL.
Hey, there it is.
We've got some news. We got some news coming out. We got, I think, to nobody's surprise, Saquon's reverse hurdle makes it as the Madden cover for this upcoming year's release. I know. Hold your surprise faces, everyone. But
nobody's shocked.
I think this is a great time to nobody's shocked. To bring back the conversations of the Madden curse, because I feel like we have lost sight of this over the course of the last couple of years. So I'm going to hand it over to Herb. Herb, hit me with some hard-hitting facts that you have here.
Yeah. So everybody's aware of the Madden curse. For those of you who are listening who have no clue, it's seemingly that every player, a large portion of the players who make the Madden cover to be the face of the league in video game form, end up having a terrible season the following season, whether it's injury, a major step back in level of play, whatever it is. I'm just going to hit you guys with some notable ones, okay? And then we'll talk about Saquon being on the cover. So, first Madden ever. Anybody know the year?
2001.
2000. John Madden himself
99.
gracing the cover. 2000, baby. John Madden on the cover, looking like a silver fox. And then the following year in 01, they started putting players, kind of not necessarily the MVP, but the most popular player that they could get on there, they would get on there. The first year that they put a player on the cover was the start of the Madden curse. Anybody know who the first player was on the cover of 2001?
Eddie George, wasn't it?
Eddie George.
That is
Eddie George,
correct.
Heisman Trophy winner at Ohio State, came into the league, took the league by storm. Of the 9 seasons he played, he rushed for 1,000 yards 7 times. That's a big deal. Okay? So leading up to 01, he was 4 years in, and he had 3 years in, and he had 1,000 yards each year going into his Madden cover year. The Madden cover year is only one of 2 years for Eddie George that he didn't rush for 1,000. Major step down. Had way less touchdowns, way less yards, way less carries. Not good. So that's when this whole thing started. A couple notable ones along the way. Marshall Faulk. He's on the cover. Gets injured the following year. Never rushes for 1,000 yards again. That's crazy. 06, Donovan McNabb. Injuries. Sean Alexander, maybe the most famous or one of the most famous busts. He breaks the record for rushing the year before, or the franchise record. He's all world. The next season he breaks his foot and his career goes downhill. 08, Vince Young. You go from rookie of the year to one of the biggest busts in NFL history. How does that happen? Drew Brees in 11 throws for a career high in picks the following year. Antonio Brown in 19. I think we're all aware of what happened to Antonio Brown. Peyton Hillis, number 1 NFL Madden bust, 2012. And then you go back to last year and you're looking at CMC. He gets on the cover and all of a sudden he's doing experimental surgery in Germany. If this isn't evidence enough for a Madden curse, I don't know what is. And I'll tell you this much, I don't want a Titan on the cover anytime soon.
So for me, go ahead, Isaiah.
I was just gonna say, if you had done your research on who had the best follow-up season to
Are
the
you
NFL
asking
cover, like has there been?
It's Mahomes and
any
Brady.
year
In doing the
which
research for all
somebody was on
this,
the cover
Mahomes and Brady
they
are
went
kind of
out
the
and actually
unequivocal.
balled
They
out?
beat the curse, baby.
I mean,
But
Mahomes
those
and Brady
two are
have been on the
also
cover.
number 1 and number 2 all time. Oh.
You guys want my take on this? And it's not I don't believe in the curse, brother. I think there's context to some of those things. Now, I will say the CMC one kind of jumps out to me, but when you're looking at, for instance, Eddie George, he had great years after that. And when we talk about a down year, that down year was still almost 1,000 yards. So I'm like, is that really a curse? You're also, some of these players, especially at a running back position, I mean, like, for instance, like Marshall Faulk and Eddie George, you're also pushing 30. And we all know at that running back time, that's kind of when it starts to slow down.
How did that happen?
Antonio Brown and the CMC one trying to stick out to me. But let's be honest, Peyton Hillis should have never been on a cover. Let's just be real. So is that a curse or is that hey?
They really had him in number 40.
Did Peyton Hillis know somebody at EA? Because
otherwise,
I have no reason why this guy should have been on a cover after an 1,100-yard season.
Nope.
I don't even know if he was leading. If he led, he didn't even lead the league in rushing that year,
No.
and he was 600 yards away from leading the league in rushing, and they said, you know what, let's give this lunch pail kid a Madden cover, and that's how he got on the cover. But if I'm pinpointing and taking away a lot of, I don't read into much in the early years, and then CMC one I can see, Antonio Brown one I can see. But other than that, I mean, Calvin Johnson still played really well. Adrian Peterson still played really well. There's a lot of Odell Beckham also, I guess you could say. But other than that, I mean, we've seen Mahomes has been on the cover twice. Tom Brady's been on there. Josh Allen's been on there and still had a good year. I think, if 5 out of the 6 years maybe there was a curse, then I'm not thinking of it as much of a curse.
You can't run from it. You can't hide from it, baby. It's coming.
Well, that's no fun.
I can't wait for Jordan Love's ass to be on
That's
that
just
thing
my
next
take.
year.
That's not the. That's my take.
Jordan Love's ass.
Rodgers has. Oh, okay. Rodgers has 4 MVPs and has never been on the cover, boys.
Good. Fuck that guy.
He's gave you a lot of bad seasons up there in Minneapolis, huh?
Yeah. How many Super Bowls does he have to go for it?
1. How many do you guys have as a franchise?
Okay.
I'm just pointing out facts. If he was so good, why did he only win 1 championship?
Because I don't.
Hey, it's
a
team sport, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you let me speak, I think 22 people play football,
You're both
bro.
taking away from Saquon Barkley's glory.
But he's so good.
It is.
But he's so good, he elevates the rest of the team, I thought.
For instance, this past Super Bowl.
See, you're right.
This past Super Bowl, Mahomes didn't have a time of day to be able to throw the ball, so I don't put that loss on him.
Goodness, are you two done?
He needed his old
Mom,
line to
hide
block
to
for him,
China. The boys are at it again.
No, that would be factual, but
there we go.
Are you talking about the NFL trophy, the one that they?
I can't believe
they
Isaiah's.
They hoist up at the end of the year. Is that?
Herb,
that's when you're talking.
Herb, can you look up the name of the
there.
trophy?
It's there. It's
oh my god!
The Lombardi Trophy. Yeah, Packers had a coach named Lombardi, didn't they?
Yeah. That's what it's called.
Herb,
I'm sorry.
We were just the last fucking episode. You were just talking about how he can't take credit for the fucking the trophy being named after him.
If I was to buy a ring for every championship we'd have, I'd have to put 3 on my feet, brother.
Yeah, and how many of you have been alive for and remembered?
2.
And how many do you remember?
2. I was 7 when the first one came out.
Well, that is medically alarming.
I have a picture of me in a Favre jersey when I was 6, 7 years old, boys.
Anyway,
I came out of the womb pissing green.
Anyway, fellas, there's plenty of time in our previews to have these conversations. But let's focus on Saquon Barkley.
Okay, before I lose
did
my mind,
either of you see the behind the scenes? No.
Longer than I need to.
Hold on. Did either of you see the photo shoot from that cover?
No. Focus on.
Our boy Saquon got up. Saquon might have been able to jump over 2 dudes in that video.
Yeah, I saw it.
I mean, not right now.
I think that video looked edited, bro. I'm going to be honest with you.
I didn't see the rigging on that. No, I did not see that. The angle that I saw, I was like, how did he jump that high?
Like he was on line.
I didn't see it.
They pulled him up.
The one that I saw looked fairly normal to jump. It was just super high, and I was like, wow, he can really get up there.
Dude, he was floating in the air.
I don't know what to tell you, boys. He got up
Herb
there. No, I didn't
tricked,
see the one with the wire set up. No, I didn't see that. I thought
Herb's like, my God, he could jump over a building, boys. I don't know how the fuck that happened.
For you. I was impressed, to say the least.
I think he could jump over the field goal post if he wanted to. Like the fuck? What? I will say before I found out he was hoisted, I did look and it looked like he got like he was frozen up there above the guy, and I was
Maybe
like,
we
yeah,
saw
this is either
different videos.
edited,
I
it was
don't know.
stopped at the top,
I'll
or
have to go back and take a
he was
peek and be
getting
like,
hoisted.
"Oh, you're
and
an
Irv
idiot."
said, "No, this is 100% fucking real, baby." Barkley's got.
Dude,
I thought
even the
that man
video I
jumped out
saw,
of
I
the
don't think
gym.
you actually saw the hoist of it.
I was like, I get
But you can
it.
just tell from the video that it
I thought
wasn't
Saquon,
real.
like he's him, brother. I get it.
You thought he had a 58-inch vertical, bro? You thought?
Yeah, no,
Dude,
I guess I got. Don't trust the internet, kids. Don't quote
Dude,
us.
if he could jump like that, he'd be hurdling way more often.
Hey, it's that time of year, baby.
Okay, Robbie, hit us with some OTA news that we can discuss.
All right, boys. We know OTAs is underway the last week and a half. Some news off the jump. I think the biggest one when I was trying to find stuff that kind of newsworthy, because a lot of stuff's in and out, but Jalen Ramsey is probably the biggest one when we're looking at guys that can be on the move. I mean, he's one of those. It's happening a lot down there in Miami, obviously with Tyreek Hill and things like that. But he basically tweeted that he's ready to, new steps ahead, stuff like that. I mean, at 30 years old, after the June 1st designation with his cap money supposedly going to go down, I think it's only going to be like a $6 million cap hit for the Dolphins. This is when they would move him. So if that's the case, I think we're going to be looking at a team possibly getting, 30 years old. I still think he got some in the tank. But I think we're going to see another team go out and get a number one corner. I think he'd be a starter on another team easily.
If you're trading for Jalen Ramsey, are you trading him expecting that he is playing cornerback and playing cornerback at a decently high level, or are you in the boat that he's going to have to move to safety sooner rather than later?
I mean, I think he's 1 year removed from a Pro Bowl. I don't see any slowing down. At least from my eyes, I think he's made the Pro Bowl every year in his career except for 2 or 3.
In fairness, the Pro Bowl in the NFL doesn't really mean anything.
All right, 2-3 years removed from AP number one team. I mean, I don't, and I'm pretty hard on corners, but I don't see unless he's lost a step that I haven't seen. I haven't watched a lot of Dolphins games. But I think you'd bring him in to be your corner one. If he slows down and something happens, you can move him to nickel, and have him shade, the running back or the tight end if needed. But other than that, I think you bring him in to be your number one corner, and I think his movability is a mid-round pick. I don't think you're giving up a first or a second. I think you're looking at a third-ish kind of is kind of where I would see it going. Miami gets off of that contract. Jalen Ramsey gets happy. Another team just has to give up a third-round pick. Which, if you're bringing in a Jalen Ramsey, he's going to give you a couple years of production. I don't think it's a bad deal for that.
Is he going to transition? I think at some point he transitions to safety. I don't think it's this year or next year.
You guys have anything else on Ramsey before I move on?
If you're trading for him, you're trading for him to be a number one corner. We're sitting here, has you slowed down? The production's not there, whatever. Corner's such a weird position that, like, why aren't we talking about Sauce Gardner every other week like we used to 2 years ago? Well, it's because guys stopped throwing at these dudes. So, yeah, pick numbers are going to go down. Deflections are going to go down because nobody wants to throw at him. What you get out of Jalen Ramsey is congrats. You just took one of the wide receivers out of play. And if they never throw at him, cool. You're paying him millions to do that. Love that. If he gets a pick here and there, perfect. It's a mentality.
I think you're also getting the fight in Jalen Ramsey and also the leadership that he would provide to a defense. I think that whatever comes with it with Jalen Ramsey, it feels like it's a little bit better than when he was with LA. But I think he brings that like a championship mentality to a defense, which I don't think you can put a value on necessarily.
The only thing I will say is, if and when he does get traded, I do think he will get traded. I think it's going to be for a lot less than we think. I think it'll be a late round pick, a 5th or a 6th, just so Miami can get off that contract. Because he doesn't want to be there. I doubt Miami wants the distraction. They'll probably ship him to some team for 5th, 6th round pick, most likely. And I will also say, I think he would only go to a large market if he had the choice. I know NFL players don't get as much of a say when it comes to their trade destinations, but
who else is
if
calling
he had
for that,
a say,
Rob?
I think he'd be picking.
Who else
Like,
would
I
be
could really
calling?
see him just
Rams. The
going
Rams
back
are an
to
interesting
LA
one.
if they
That Rams
would
is
have
going
him
back, but I mean, who else is realistically going to call
All right, boys.
and take that
I guess
contract?
we'll know. Calling for what? When I looked and tried to find it, it's a lot of random teams. I think I'm with Isaiah in this. I think it would be a team that's in a win now mode. We've seen teams like the Commanders and other guys bring in I think they brought in Marshawn Lattimore, right, this past year. Teams that bring in young teams that bring in some defensive, the Bobby Wagners of the world, those defensive vets that's just going to bolster up that defense. So if I were to guess, I'd look out for a possible young team, but a team that's kind of needy in that corner position, or at least in the corner room, to add a vet, which honestly could be probably half the league. But I think for Jalen Ramsey to want to play for a team, I think they're going to have to be at least somewhat playoff caliber or championship caliber.
All right.
I think two teams
I like that.
stand out to me.
Go for it.
The Baltimore Ravens.
I'm going Houston Texans.
And
Ronald Darby retired this
Vegas
morning.
Raiders.
Enjoy retirement. Could you imagine pairing Derek Stingley and Jalen Ramsey with that defense as it's being built? As a Titans fan, I'd hate to see it, but boy, would that be an elite play. And Houston's got to make moves. That's a fair point as well. I'm hoping for.
I just have no idea.
Correct.
I just have
I'm
no
hoping
idea
he
what
comes
Houston's
back,
doing.
As a Titans fan,
point.
love to see their
It seems
demise.
like they've lost all direction. But that might be a conversation for a different day.
Hell yeah.
All right, boys. One thing I did want to hit on, which is big in the O-line world, and we love O-line here at the pod, is giving Frank Ragnow his flowers. He did retire today. I think he's 28, just turned 29. 7 years in the league. He was highly regarded as top 2, top 3 centers in the game, at least in the last few years. He was kind of the focal point and the center of that offensive line that made that offensive line what it is today. But as we saw at the end of last year, going into the playoffs, and we've seen a few years of his career, he's battling some injuries. And I think it's one of those situations where injuries, my livelihood, being able to walk when I'm 45, I think those come into play. And Ragnow chose that, which you can't blame him. But when I was reading articles on this, I mean, it's all over ESPN. They're thinking that this shakes up that offensive line pretty hard. Because also you lost Zeitler, right, to the Titans, which he was kind of a plug-and-play guy when he was there. It's not like he was long-term there. But to lose Ragnow now, I mean, the depth chart's been updated to include Tate Ratledge, their draft pick this year, is moving to center and starting for them. But a lot of articles are saying that, with the timing of this, obviously after the draft, which isn't great timing from the Lions standpoint, some think that they're going to go out and get a center. But I don't know if that's feasible. I think they plug and play with what they have. But it is interesting to, for being top 2. I think top 2, and I'm not afraid to say it as a Packers fan, probably top 2, top 3 lines
and we
in
talked a little
the
bit
NFL.
about
I think this shakes
line.
it up pretty
Graham
heavily.
Glasnow, excuse me. Shout out Marmion Academy in Aurora, Illinois. I think he's played center for the Lions before. He played a lot of center in Denver. He's back with Detroit. They had him slated as a guard. I think if that dude's already got experience taking snaps at the NFL center position, slide him in there, and then your Ratledge guy from Georgia slides into one of the guard slots. I tell you what, in talking about the draft and the timing of it, I think this might have changed the Lions' draft approach if they knew that Frank was going to be out. I think they go center instead of maybe a utility guy. They go with a pure center, like is it Jared Wilson out of Georgia that got drafted? Another Georgia boy, but I think that you are right. It does. They're kind of screwed and scrambling. I think they'll make it work, but we'll see.
Yeah. And a lot. Now, what the centers were on the board for a long time too, so it's not like the Lions would have had to use a
no. I mean, I'm
a high
excited
pick to
OTAs
go
are
get a
good, bro.
starting center. There's centers on the board pretty heavily into the late rounds. Anything else on this before we move on?
One thing for me, and this is more just a novice question for you, or because when I think of centers and their importance in the grand scheme of just the offense in general, right? I think of that position as with how much flexibility a lot of offensive linemen have to play multiple positions now and to plug and play somebody, that position compared to, let's say, your number one receiver goes out. Like if they lost Amon Ra, St.
Most
right?
part, yes. For the most
That would
part,
be a lot
yeah,
more
that is the
drastic
case. But I mean,
to try and replace
the center is
compared to center,
the number
right?
2 on every offense in the NFL. Like the quarterback's not in the huddle, the center is the one commanding the space. There's a reason that guys like Jeff Saturday and Jason Kelsey are Hall of Fame guys, and it's not because they were some freak run blocker or they never let up a sack, which both those guys were very, very good centers. Don't get me wrong, they're great centers. But what sets those two apart is at times Jeff Saturday was calling plays out there over Peyton Manning, and Peyton rode, oh, let's ride. You can't tell me that Jason Kelsey wasn't doing the same thing. It's such a focal point, the center position, and that's why I think you got to go with somebody with experience. It's so hard to play rookie center because you're calling out every protection. You have to know every piece of the offense. It is interesting when a team brings in a rookie center and then you watch how much their O-line just struggles in scheme of things. The Raiders had that problem with the rookie center, and I love their center. Jackson Powers, or is it Jackson Powers Johnson? JPJ, kid out of Oregon. Love that kid. Love the way he plays football. Their O-line struggled, and it's not to blame him, but it's an experience thing. And if you're in the Lions position, you can't sacrifice that, especially
yeah,
with
it's the
where
guy
you're
they
at
drafted.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they kind of have to just ride with what the internal options that they have, unless they get through OTAs and training camp and they're just like, shoot, this is not going to work. I just feel like there's not many guys that
Is
are
anybody
probably
worth a
out
shit
there
in free agents?
center-wise
Go ahead, Rob.
that you can plug and play at this point, that don't have their own kind of red flags.
I think we're also seeing. I was going to say, speaking to Isaiah's point earlier about plug and play with these offensive line, I think we're seeing a lot of these teams, the Packers being one of them. That's why I'm a little bit familiar with it. Drafting these guys that they can move around the line. So if the center goes out or the guard goes out, they can just kind of move it and shuffle and still be a unit. So this brings into play if that's. I think that's going to be more of a common theme. You're still going to have your big boys out on the sides and things like that. But I do think that, from the interior at least, you're definitely going to see some being able to be shuffled and be fine with it. For instance, if they throw Rutledge in there and he's their starting center, but they draft one next year and they move him to guard, I think ideally that's kind of a place that these teams want to be in. They'd rather a guy be versatile rather than I can only play left side. I only know how to,
coach one time tell me that
go into
no
my
lineman
drop
who can only
with my
play
left
one
foot,
of
things
5
like that.
positions
I
is a
think we're
shit
going to see a
offensive
lot
lineman.
of
And I think
versatility
that's
from the
holding true
O-line
in the modern NFL. Really, the only position that holds down is like your right tackle might not be able to play left tackle, but you better learn how to play right guard then. And there's 5 spots on the field. Go get one of them. Be versatile. Be good.
I think and I speaking to the last thing to add on that is like I've heard Taylor Lewan speak, or these old tackles that have played in the league, and they're like, I can only play that position. You throw me on the right side, I wouldn't know what to do, or you put me a right tackle, I only know left. I'd be lost out there. And you're like, okay, well, would you really be, or would it take just a couple weeks to warm up? But if you're in the middle of a game and your left tackle goes
No,
down,
and
you got
that's
to
something you should be
shuffle.
learning. But
You
I
don't
get
have
what
you
Lawan's
got to be a
saying.
master of
10
your
years in the
craft.
league playing left tackle, the muscle memory's
You
there.
can't learn that the right side or left side in the middle
You
of a
gave that
game.
dude a full offseason to learn right tackle. Obviously not at his weight and where he's at now, but he could figure it out.
All right, boys. There's not a lot coming out from OTAs, but one I wanted to hit on just because it's been all over the outlets today is Kirk Cousins. We all know that he hasn't been present at team activities and now OTAs. Arthur Blank has got himself a situation down there paying this man all that money. So right now, I guess the story is if he's not going to be backing up Penix down there in Atlanta, I'm going to give you guys a few teams, and you guys tell me where the best fit is, if that's okay. This is just, I think The Athletic put it out. I've seen some similar teams, and this is kind of teams that are kind of in a QB needy situation. But the first off would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, they drafted Will Howard. You have Mason Rudolph, I think, taking starting reps, at least at this point.
Yeah,
Everyone is assuming with Aaron Rodgers working out with DK Metcalf this offseason that there's some sort of I guess you could say, what do we call it, Herb? A handshake deal behind closed doors that Rodgers said, hey, I'm going to play. Just give me, until July and I'll come around. I'll work out with the fellas, but, I don't need to be at camp, which everyone has their own take on. So we have the Steelers. We have news out of the Saints, which kind of goes into this. The Saints are just, ever since Drew Brees left, it's kind of been a carousel down there. Who can take over that quarterback position, at least for them, with Derek Carr retiring. You have Spencer Rattler, and I think Hayner got injured today and is out till training camp. So you're down to Rattler and Show. That seems like a good fit when you put it that way. It's also a division rival, so you know a little bit about the division. Also trading within division, that doesn't happen very often unless you're the Vikings and Lions and trading away TJ Hawkinson. Speaking of the Vikings, that's the next up on this short list. Bringing him in with JJ McCarthy. You have Sam Howell on the roster as well. Bringing him back, have a little reunion. It seems like the coach loved him. Obviously, Kirk Cousins went off and got paid. You bring him back in to be the vet. I think Minnesota was home to Kirk Cousins for a number of years. I wouldn't be surprised if he still has the home up there. So if he wanted to come play for a year or two and let JJ McCarthy learn a little bit, I think is the best situation. So out of all those teams, and obviously you guys can add some teams if you think there's a team out there that wasn't listed. Do you guys see any of these as good fits for good old Kirk O'Bangs?
I think the best one you mentioned, and I think it's the most easy connection, is Pittsburgh. I just can't see them going into this season or riding with Mason Rudolph for the entire season. And to me personally, I don't think Rodgers has anything left in the tank to provide.
Don't quote
at
us.
This point.
That's crazy.
I guess we didn't watch the same Aaron Rodgers last season.
Don't make me pull up his stats.
Don't
make me pull up his stats.
Great.
I will.
They weren't great.
I'll pull them up.
But when you think of QB needing teams, really that's the only team I can think of at this point, because any other team, I don't think he's going to be the clear-cut number one guy that he goes into. Like, he will either have to fight for it, but he won't be given the first string job, right? And I think the Saints were a good call out, but I doubt that they trade him within the division, even though the Saints, they're not going to be good regardless. So I don't know what it matters to them personally. That might also play into it. They already know that they're going to suck, and Kirk Cousins isn't going to fix that. So I think it's really Pittsburgh, or you kind of just have to nut up and ride it out for a year.
While the Saints make a lot of sense,
when
I
there's some
doubt it
openings
makes
available
sense
again.
money-wise. With the amount of dead cap that they're fighting, the Saints' financial situation is an absolute nightmare. So I don't think the money works there. Minnesota, I don't think the Vikings want that headache. I don't think the fan base really wants them back there. Although, yeah, I do agree that I think the Vikings need to get a veteran quarterback on that roster as an insurance policy. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to speak very clearly, and I'm going to be very direct. And this is to Omar Khan, who is the GM of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quit fucking around with Aaron Rodgers and the circus that is. Phenomenal quarterback. I don't share Isaiah's opinion that he is, as Isaiah would like to put it, doo-doo butt cheeks. I don't agree with that. But quit fucking around with it and let's get serious here. Let's be a historic, original NFL team. Trade for Kirk. That is, at this point, the smart option. Take the hit on whatever his contract is. Let Will Howard develop behind him. He's going to come in and command that offense. Plain and simple. Pittsburgh Steelers, stop fucking around. Make the right decision. Can I throw real quick? Can I throw an interesting one at you real quick though? Just a little hypothetical at you. Yeah, potentially, but it won't be before the season starts.
All right, boys.
If Atlanta plays this right, and it's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda,
team that you would go to?
Maybes. They hold on to him because they don't find a great trade partner. Another very heavy quarterback needy team, whether we want to admit it or not, is the Miami Dolphins. If Tua gets hurt again and Atlanta's sitting there with Kirk, they need to be calling Miami saying, what can we get? Let's make a deal. I think that could play. The money is tough there because they do have a lot of big contracts down in Miami. So I think that could be a sneaky little play if Tua goes down again. Just a thought, just a little hypothetical for you.
I'll tell my thought, what I want to happen. I think, touching back on the Steelers, I think there is a handshake deal in there. I think Tomlin and Rodgers have talked about it. What I do hope happens is I hope the Falcons have to eat this whole contract. That's the reason he hasn't been moved yet, and that's the reason he's still on the roster. Is I think if a team were to absorb or trade for him, unless something crazy happens, they'd have to absorb, I think, $28 million base and $10 million of incentives. So it'd be like roughly, I think, $38 million for Kirk Cousins, who, when he was on the field last year, he didn't look great. So I do hope that the Falcons just have to eat that cap money for the next few years. It's just hard for a team. How does a team, for instance, the Vikings, have a reunion for $38 million a year? That doesn't. Now, if it was $10 million, and you're saying, "Hey, Kirk, come back home and coach up JJ. You're going to start for a year or two. We'll give you $14.5 million, whatever." That makes sense to me. But even for a team like the Saints to bring him in for $38 million is just crazy. But I mean, we can talk about props. Shout out Kirk Cousins. That dude has made $300 million in his career, and he has won you
but I tell you
one
what,
career playoff
game
win
on a Sunday in the sunshine.
Shout out Kirk Cousins for fleecing the NFL. You did it, brother. He's going to look like prime Dan Marino out there, baby. Otherwise, I think it's a wrap up as far as OTAs, Joe boys. I mean, there's some light stuff. Stephon Diggs showed up. I know we touched on Stephon Diggs last time. That was kind of it. He's at voluntary OTAs. I've seen things where it's still not great with the organization up there and with the Patriots. I don't think they like all that funny business as far as just distractions.
Yeah.
I don't think that was just Belichick. I don't think Kraft likes it either. But probably more to come on that. But I think that's kind of all I got for OTAs, fellas.
Give me Miami.
Well, let's jump in to our NFL preview then. We got the Jets and the Dolphins today, fellas. Who do we want to start with? Miami? Okay. Let's run through it real fast. I'll be honest, not a whole lot coming out from their side.
What a loser mentality.
Additions.
What a loser mentality.
They brought in good old Zach Wilson, who will be wearing the double zeros, which will look extremely odd on a football field, or zero, or just a single zero. They also are bringing in Alexander Madison, who will not make the final roster, Nick Westbrook Akine, and then James Daniels, O-lineman. He'll probably start at one of the guard positions, I would assume. Departures, we kind of touched on Jalen Ramsey already. He'll most likely be gone before the season starts. Jonnu Smith, supposedly there are trade talks there. Possible reunion in Pittsburgh from what I saw, due to him I think they requested to renegotiate his contract, which he refused. So we'll see what happens there. In addition to that, they lost Kendall Fuller, cornerback. Mostert's finally off the team. Thank the fantasy gods that's finally happened. Braxton Berrios and his TikTok girlfriend are gone. Durham Smith, tight end. Calais Campbell, D lineman, and Javon Holland, safety, are all out the building. Draft-wise, they didn't have a ton of draft picks this year. They did draft Kenneth Grant, D-tackle from Michigan, 13th overall. I will preface that by saying many people around the league think
I'm
that
not gonna
was
let the Vikings
the biggest reach in the entire first round. So
just want to make sure.
I said one of the biggest. Calm down. Chill out. But he was
Jonah,
one
big
of the
man
biggest.
from Arizona.
And then they drafted an O-lineman, second round. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name because I'll butcher that. That guy. But yeah, they had a first round pick, second round pick, and then a bunch of late round picks that I won't list here. So, like I said, not a ton of changes to the roster makeup that I think we can all agree disappointed. Very lackluster last year, and that partially due to injuries. They couldn't get a quarterback to play half the season. Tyler Huntley was not the answer. Nobody was really the answer outside of Tua, and Tua didn't look great in the games that he did play. But with those moves, what kind of stands out to you guys? Moves you did like, moves you didn't like, and just your initial thoughts, I guess.
I think for me, when I look at Miami, not a lot of it moved the needle, man. I know you mentioned some of those draft picks and kind of what they got going on, but you really didn't bring, outside of Kenneth Grant, you made some splashes in free agency. You went and got a safety from Detroit, but you didn't bring in some true day one starters outside of the your second round pick, which is projected to start at right guard, Jonah. You really didn't. I don't think you went out and made the team better as a whole. Especially, I think they're coming off like an 8-9 season last year. So we're going in. To me, this is and I do like Mike McDaniel. I like him a lot. Personality wise, I think coaching wise, he seems like a player's coach. But I think this year we're going into, hey, we've been 8-9, we've been 9-8. We've had a good year, 11-6. This is a year that we got to make something happen. You've had Tyreek Hill for 3 years. You've had Tagovailoa for 3 years. this is, you got a franchise quarterback, a top, arguably in the past few years, top 5 wide receiver. We got to make something happen. Not to mention you have Jalen Waddle. Some positives. I know Herb loves. They did draft a running back. Herb has been high on Ollie Gordon. I'm not as high as Herb is, but I do think it makes that running back room better. I agree with you, Isaiah. I don't know how much Alexander Madison's going to contribute to that. But I do like Achane, Jalen Wright, and having Ollie Gordon. I think that's a good running back room. But there's a lot of to me, the theme of the Vikings, stuck on the Vikings. The theme of the Dolphins is question marks, right? I don't know what to expect out of this team. I don't know if Tua is going to be that franchise quarterback you want him to be. I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to be injured or be playing. There's a lot of don't knows and question marks when it comes around the Dolphins. They can come out and maybe get 10-6, 10-7, possibly. There's just too many questions left unanswered when we're talking about the Dolphins. Not big splashes in free agency, not crazy moving up in the draft to go get their guy.
Couldn't agree more.
Backfilling and question marks is kind of where I'm at with the theme of the Dolphins offseason.
What is the future of the Miami Dolphins? I think McDaniels is coaching for his job this year, and I think that needs to be a real thing that people realize. Like all the extra stuff that comes with him being your head coach, you love when he's winning. I think he is a good coach, but he's coaching for his job, and the quarterback position is what's screwing him. I don't think Tua is long for this league. They're going to have to start thinking about the future in a big, big way. In terms of their draft and what they added and lost, I don't think they added enough. I think is Westbrook-Akine their best signing in the offseason in terms of impact? I mean, the guy's a home run hitter, but you've got Waddle. I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to be there for the long term. I mean, the damn guy's celebrating on stream about a fake, hey, you've been traded. And he was excited about it. So question marks is a good way to put it, Rob. I think Miami is looking at probably being the last team in the AFC East this year.
I guess I'll look at it from a different lens and just say straight up, I don't think Mike McDaniels is a good coach. Average coach at best. I think his personality does not, it might work in the short term, but in the long term does not play in the NFL. He's too lackadaisical. I feel like when the going gets tough, like it did last year, the team is not coming around him, coming together as a cohesive unit. And you can kind of see that with the way Tyreek is acting on social media and stuff. And some of the things that you're kind of hearing coming out of that locker room where it doesn't seem like there's a team mentality there. It's a really I before team situation. Yes, I do think he's a good offensive mind and he can make things work. And he has been kind of put behind the 8 ball since he's been there with the sheer amount of injuries that he's had to deal with, specifically at the most important position that there is. But you, as an NFL head coach, you're not an offensive coordinator anymore. So it's more than X's and O's. And I agree. He's definitely fighting for his job this season. If they finish under 500, it's going to be a quick cut. He might not even make it through the end of the season, most likely. But the team sucks.
Hey, Dolphins fans, cover your ears because Isaiah's about to shit on you.
I can't put any faith or trust into them until I can see.
Jesus Christ.
What?
This is the pain that I wanted about Oklahoma City. This is the energy I needed.
I don't like it. Like, you would think they're division rivals for some reason. He's like, I don't fucking hate them. He's like, they fucking suck.
I mean, it's just nothing about them. Like Tua, I can't imagine. He can't play more than 8 games. Their offensive line has set him up for failure. Like the dude already needs to be in bubble wrap.
Big Joe out of Arizona, baby.
Then you don't do anything to give him good offensive linemen. You go and get James Daniel and draft a kid in the second round. That's what you did to fix that. Okay, great. You have a disgruntled number 1 receiver
coming off
out
injury.
wide. You have Jalen Waddle, who is good, but I still don't even know how good he really is, honestly. Like, is it more the byproduct of Tyreek Hill being in this offense? Or is he actually capable of doing this on his own, right? You got the running back room, which I like the names in there. Achane can't handle a full workload as a 5'7" burner. Jalen Wright got no run last year. Alexander Madison is a bum. He'll get cut. And Ollie Gordon, who knows? Maybe you got something there. Maybe not. And then their defense, they don't have Vic Fangio. Got let go because he had to be scapegoated during the offseason. And
Duck Storm, baby. Hey, Duck Storm getting play at number 1 corner after Ramsey's out of there.
A bunch of
you don't want to throw on Duck
practice squad players, and then
Jesus Christ,
and then I see that sounds like a name from a comic book, to be honest with you. Then you have Bradley Chubb. He's injured to start the year. So
Kenneth
who's your
Grant.
pass rush going to be? You got
Kenneth
Jalen
Grant and
Phillips
Chop Robinson.
off an Achilles tear, and then who else do they got? Somebody throw me a name. Chop Robinson. What did he do last year? Yeah, great. That's not doing anything for me. Couldn't tell you one single linebacker on that roster. Like they have like they have names, very high level names, but nothing else. It's just so top heavy, and when your roster's that top
give
heavy,
us, Isaiah,
and they can't
give
stay
us
healthy,
your prediction.
it's a recipe for disaster.
Where these Miami Dolphins are going to.
That's my 2 cents.
All right. I think we gotta.
I was gonna wait until after we did our Jets breakdown, but I think Dolphins finish last in the division. I also don't think Tua's playing a full season, and I think this is the season where the wheels just fall off. Like, I think we kind of saw it last season, but this season, everything is gonna go wrong. I don't know what their schedule looks like. I haven't dug deep into that, but even without looking at their schedule,
That's fair.
I just can't see them winning more than 6 games. But
we are doing the AFC East.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't like it. Don't like it at all.
I want you guys to know the Jets are in the division.
So the Patriots, and I
just wanted to let you guys know. When you're saying they're going to finish last, I just wanted to let you know that the Jets are in the division.
Hey, I'm about to come in with some good Jets.
You think they're looking like potential playoff look? Like fighting for a wild card?
They're going to be fighting for second or third. So I don't know how the AFC is going to shake out completely, but I think that I'm a little bit of the opposite of Isaiah. I like Mike McDaniel as a coach. I do, which I'll get into more when we talk about the Jets. But I do think some coaches are meant to be a coordinator, not a head coach. And I think I'll get into that a little bit with Aaron Glenn, so a little foreshadowing there. But that could be. But I do like Mike McDaniel. But I do think there's a lot of stuff going on there with Tyreek Hill. Not even just the arrest, the social media, the videos, everything that's going on there. It's just, yeah. And then also, I get that you got to stick with Tua. I get it. But also, at some point, it's either got to work out or not. Obviously, 2 years ago when they went to Kansas City to play in the cold in the playoff game, I think everyone remembers that game as far as I mean, it didn't feel like the Dolphins got off the airplane there. But I do think it is a prove it year for him. I'm not saying he's going to be out of the league if he gets, but I do think that this is the time where we either got to have a
Quinn,
culture shift
baby.
and kind of clean house, not only at the coaching position, but also maybe we need to look at a different franchise quarterback, which nobody mentioned, but they did draft a quarterback. That's where I'm going to wrap it up. Is Quinn Ewers is on the roster, baby. So, I'm not obviously saying that Quinn Ewers. I'm not as high on Quinn Ewers as some people, but I think if this year is a prove it year to a point of if he doesn't come out and get you to the playoffs, it's a time where you got to look hard in the mirror and say, okay, let's culture change. We love you, Mike, but it's time to move on. Tua, we got to figure out a way to get out of whatever that contract looks like. I think that's when you start having those discussions. I think this is their year. And I don't think that roster is built to have a year like that. I think that roster, as I look at it, and Isaiah has a point, the defense doesn't look great. They drafted a lot of depth pieces on the defense, some guys that are going to be backups, which obviously they can explode and do what they do. But from a bird's eye view looking at it, doesn't look like a whole great of a situation going on down there in Miami, especially if you have
not optimistic.
your number one corner.
I'm not
out.
as
That's
ho-hum about it as I say is.
Well.
This franchise stinks as a whole. I mean, I don't. What did he do to you? Laces out, Dan.
He hates
Laces
Miami, bro.
out.
What did Dan Marino do to you?
They're really stuck with you.
Did you not like the Ace? Did you not like the Ace Ventura movie or what, bro? God.
That's a terrible take. That's nice. That's a foolish take.
Or before
that's a foolish
you get into
take.
your piece, I also will say I just hate the color scheme too. That teal, so.
Are you talking about like the reflective teal that looked like it was made of metal? Is that
one of the best jerseys in the NFL?
The old school teal that they had, that was good. This teal that they had,
that's a cold take, brother.
The Dan Marino teal.
Yeah,
and purple does such a great job of that.
I hate this teal, and if that's supposed to instill fear in your opponents, it's not doing it.
Hey,
think purple does?
Just because you just clap in unison before a game to a fake horn doesn't make you intimidating.
At least our
okay?
logo can intimidate somebody. Have you seen how?
Well, thank you.
Dolphin.
Now that the floor is mine. I think hating the color scheme's wild.
Go back to your take.
Dolphins finished dead last, under 500. Tua doesn't make it through a full season. Stamp it. Don't quote us, but stamp it. Quinn Ewers starts at least 2 games for the Miami Dolphins this year. And that's not out of like, hey, we want this to happen. But that's the take.
Okay. I do want to pose the question to you guys. With the question surrounding quarterback, right? Like, we've seen Tua be very good for at least one season, right? 2 seasons ago. But we've also seen the downside, right? He's been injury prone, to say the least. What do you think it takes from him this year for them to keep on this wagon, if that makes sense? Like, does he need to go out and
I think any season for the Dolphins in which Tua is not convulsing on the field is a W season.
They're trying to move
for the Dolphins
this offseason if they can.
I don't know. That's about stats. It's whether or not that.
I think the biggest. I was going to say, I think I piggyback off Herb's take. I think if he plays 17 games, we're already off to a hot start as far as where we're at with Tua. The potential's there. I mean, we've seen him almost, it's bad words, but almost look lifeless out there on the field a few different times now. And I mean, without looking it up, I would have thought he's been in the league 10 years, and he's only been in the league 4 or 5 years. So it's not like he's old. He's 25, 26 years old. If he can stay healthy, which I really hope he does, but we've only had one season in those 5 years that he's played the full season. All the other seasons, 11, 12 games is what you're getting out of Tua, which doesn't seem like a lot when you're thinking about, okay, we can make the playoffs, get us 11 games. We'll have but there's some crucial games you need in those other 6 games. That's going to determine whether you're in or out of the playoffs. So even if it's a situation where Tua gets injured week 13, he comes back playoffs, no, you need your quarterback in there. You need rhythm in there, continuity. That's what wins games. And so if you can figure that out, I think if he plays healthy and plays a good season, then I think they're not as keen to get off of Tua as we would have thought of as of right now.
I will also add to that, I really do feel like him and McDaniel are tied. If McDaniel ends up getting canned, it's very difficult for me, unless they are hiring a coach specifically that is okay with coaching Tua, that he will not be looking for his own guy from the very beginning. That's just my opinion on it. And then the last thing I'll throw out to continue my Dolphins hate, even if in some alternate universe they do make the playoffs, I don't trust if they made the playoffs, it's because Tua had a really good season, and I don't trust Tua
They're not
in the
going to
playoffs.
Sniff the playoffs
second that he has
year.
to go outside and play in cold weather. So they're
do,
one and done,
but they're 85
if they do make it to the playoffs, which they're not going to make it to the playoffs. Stamp it. Don't quote me.
You're telling me Hawaii doesn't have winners?
Let me just pull up that tape from when he had to go play in Kansas City a couple years back and how well that
It was
went.
bad, bro. People got frostbite out of that thing.
Mm-hmm. They're not meant for it. That's for sure. But that will be the end of my Dolphin slander. We will flip over to the last team in the AFC East, the New York Football Jets, which they did have a little bit of stuff going on this offseason compared to the Dolphins. Additions, new head coach coming in, Aaron Glenn, former defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Steve Wilkes is coming in as D coordinator. I know he's been kind of jumping around a lot as of recently. Justin Fields got brought in to hopefully stabilize the quarterback position, and then a couple marginal moves in picking up signing Brendan Stevens, a cornerback, and then Andre Cisco, safety. The departures is what I really wanted to point out to you guys, because I didn't realize it until I was going through the research for this episode. The names that they have lost, and granted, they're big names. Like we'll know all of these names. Obviously, some of them are kind of past their prime, and it's almost good riddance that they're gone. But nonetheless, departures: Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, C.J. Mosley, Hassan Reddick, Javon Kinlaw, Morgan Moses, DJ Reed, Solomon Thomas. Those are some heavy hitters, in my opinion. And then draft, couple key guys that I will call out here. First round pick,
Armand Membu,
and I'm gonna pronounce this wrong.
There it is.
Membahu, the offensive tackle from Missouri. Membu, thank you. Mason Taylor, who actually did like tight end from LSU. I think he has some good upside. And then they did get the cornerback from Florida State. I'm not going to pronounce his first name, but last name's Thomas. I had seen during the draft season, there was projections that he was maybe going to jump into the late first round, if not for sure the second round. So they got him in the third round. So I thought that was a great steal for them. Put him either in the nickel or across from Sauce to replace DJ Reed. and I think he's a plug and play player. But that is the changes. I'll hand it over to you guys. Give me your thoughts.
I'll take it from here, fellas. First off, the Jets are going to Jets, man. When I'm looking at this roster, I want to
real
start
quick,
off.
Rob, are you going to shit on them for having green and white as their
I'll
colors?
start with the head coach. Let me just preface this. It's not going to be
perfect.
great reviews here. So, Aaron Glenn. No. I'm going to shit on him for hiring Aaron Glenn. So, Aaron, I feel like we've been around the NFL long enough to know that these teams go out and get you a defensive-minded coach, and it kind of just shakes out in 2-3 years. And the problem with hiring Aaron Glenn, who I like him, I seemingly like him as a person. Seems to be a good guy, good locker room guy. He's been the defensive coordinator for 3 years, and arguably the Lions' defense has been one of the worst in the league for those 3 years. And I did look up this because I wanted to back it up a little bit. Last year, the Lions finished 30th in passing defense. Keep in mind, he's not the defensive coordinator. I know that, but this just goes into his resume. 30th in passing defense, and then also
wait,
we finished 20th.
Isn't he the defensive coordinator? So doesn't this directly go on his report card?
Correct. It goes on him, but he's not the defensive coordinator for the Jets, if that makes sense.
Okay.
He's the head coach.
Yes. Okay.
But the reason why he got hired, usually the defensive coordinator, if you're hiring a defensive coordinator, it's because he's bringing the juice to a top 3 defense type situation. So 20th, 20th in total defense, giving up almost 350 yards a game, and then almost dead last with passing defense at 30th spot. So I'm not hiring Aaron Glenn for the Jets just doesn't move the needle for me. I don't know if it was their first choice. I obviously don't know their hiring process. We know that good old Johnson, the owner, doesn't make great decisions. And this dates back to as long as I've been watching football, it feels like. But as far as the roster as a whole, I will say I do like Justin Fields. I think that I feel bad for the guy. When you think about Justin Fields with the Bears, they really didn't give him anybody, and all of a sudden they draft Caleb Williams. And they go get him every weapon under the sun. And I just think that's unfortunate for Justin Fields. I'm hoping he actually and plus, look at him last year with the Steelers before Wilson took over. I think Justin Fields put good tape on the field. So plus he has Tyrod Taylor there, which I think is one of the best backups to have in the league as far as a guy that's just a locker room cat. Mimbow, I think, is going to be a great right tackle in the league. Mason Taylor, I'm not really sold on. Obviously, it's Jason Taylor's son. Am I wrong in that? Herb? I think I looked him. I think Herb. We talked about him when we watched the draft together. It didn't move the needle a lot for me, but I think he has potential. Obviously, from the defense, we all know I'm an Iowa State fan, and they have a nice young guy named Will McDonald.
You're picking McDonald.
So I obviously will be cheering for him. He came off with 11 sacks last year. I'm picking their starting D end, yes. But yeah, the defense obviously has been good the last few years. Not as great last year, obviously, with the lackluster offense. But they did lose some pieces, right? I think they went out, they lost a corner, they lost a free safety. They lost one of their D tackles. And you mentioned Sauce Gardner earlier, not getting thrown to is the reason why he hasn't had we're not hearing about him. I think it's the other way around. Sauce Gardner has last year, and this is a hot take, did not look great. Remember that where they had Jets tackling drills? They talked about that. Remember that? Do you guys remember that when they talked about the tackling? And Sauce was like, we don't need to practice tackling. And then a play in the next game, he blatantly missed a tackle, which I'm not saying he's not a great player. I'm just saying maybe we're not seeing the potential that we saw in his rookie year. But as a whole, I think the Jets I think Garrett Wilson is also not why I think he could be a great wide receiver. I don't think from a touchdown perspective, I know we talked about obviously Keon Coleman not producing, but I think Garrett Wilson in his short time in the NFL hasn't been churning out numbers. Let's say that
with no quarterback.
From a guy that demands being the wide receiver one. He has 14 touchdowns in 3 years being in the NFL as a wide receiver one.
For 1 year.
I know
1 year.
I know the yardages are there, but you played with Aaron Rodgers, who threw for almost 30 touchdowns last year. Yeah. Out of the 3 years, correct.
I feel like that completely
I'll admit to it right now. I traded Garrett Wilson in the middle of the season, right before the boom came.
I think Aaron Rodgers was very good last season.
I'm very familiar with
Mr. Top 10 in the
game, and it hurt me.
Yeah,
it hurt me.
So as far as direction, obviously we can talk about it, but we've also I like their running back room. I think Braylon Allen has potential. They also have 2 Iowa State running backs, so I got to show love there as well. But as a whole, they're going to finish 3rd or 4th in the division. I'm projecting Aaron Glenn is not going to be a long-term solution at head coach for the Jets. That is my hot take. They might extend his stay too long. But having Tanner, a former passing game coordinator that doesn't have any offensive coordinator experience as your OC, doesn't move the needle for me. Obviously, Steve Wilkes was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. He does bring potential. I think they can put out a good defense, but I think we're going to see the offense production be a little bit lackluster. I mean, I like Alan Lazard, but if he's not with Aaron Rodgers and getting thrown to from Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he's a starting wide receiver in the NFL. And so that's just my take on the Jets. I think they do finish 4th. I think we see a 6-11 type season, 7-10 type season. It's going to be a struggle, but I wish them well. I wish Justin Fields well. I want to see him succeed, and I want to see all my Cyclones succeed over there
at the end of the season. I think they're better off for the moves they made. Rob, I'll agree with you. I like Aaron Glenn a lot. I think that's a dude that gets defensive dudes to buy in. But is he a head coach or is he just a phenomenal defensive coordinator? And you're right. I mean, we haven't seen a real defensive coordinator type head coach be successful in the league since Vrabel, right? When Vrabel was running the Titans, and he was really that when they were making playoff runs, he was that guy that he's a defensive-minded coach. So, yeah, Rob, you're right. Defensive coaches as of late just have not succeeded. In terms of the roster, I like some of the moves. I love Justin Fields there. I think he's going to succeed. I think the offense is missing a piece at receiver in a big way. I think they got to get somebody, and I don't think Lazard wants to be there. I don't think they want to pay Lazard to be there. But if he's there, he's there. But I think they got to go find somebody to be a true number 2 for a couple years. Wilson to really shine. One thing I want to say, though, is when are the Jets going to stop using first-round picks on O-linemen? Because I'm pretty sure that 4 of their starting 5 O-linemen were picked in round 1 or 2. And in the last 3-4 years. Because you got Fashanu at left tackle. He was your first-round pick last year. You got Elijah Vera Tucker, who you took out of USC a couple years back in the first round. You've got what's old boy? Is it Schmalz from Minnesota that they took in the second round? Maybe that's not who I'm thinking of. Who's their center? Tippmann, right? Tippmann was, I think, a second-round pick, and now you've got Armand Membu, another first-round pick. I tell you what, one of these cats is better. They got to figure it out. Yeah, I mean, they're bound to. And Rob, to your point about your boy Breece Hall, I think that's only going to help him. Whatever they do, don't trade Breece Hall. Ride Breece Hall, make that work. By the way, I'm taking them to finish second in the division, Robert. Second. They'll be fighting with the Patriots week in and week out for 2-3.
And I will say the one thing I don't think has been brought up in terms of the Justin Fields signing that gets me excited.
Garrett Wilson.
When you guys think back when he played at Ohio State,
Yeah.
You want to take a guess at who his receivers were? Yeah, Garrett Wilson was one of those receivers. And remember what everybody was saying when Justin Fields was coming out for the draft that season? How good he was and talking him up, thinking that he had a real chance to be a franchise quarterback. So putting him back in a situation where he has somebody that he's familiar with, very comfortable with throwing the football, along with the new offensive coordinator that Aaron Glenn is bringing with him. It's the former passing coordinator from Detroit. I want everything to do with what Detroit's been
Ben
building
Johnson
for the last couple of
No
seasons.
questions asked.
I don't know who specifically in that building you can give all the credit to, if you can give all the credit
Ben
to
Johnson.
one person. But I think
yeah.
So I like the product of going to get his prodigy, hopefully, and seeing what he can do with Justin Fields. Because I think the one thing that has held Justin Fields back in his prior two stops is a lack of a creative play caller for him. Last year it was Arthur Smith, who you can attest to the type of offense. Yep. And then before that, he had Eberflus in Chicago. Like, these dudes weren't doing him favors. Like, they weren't allowing him to be the quarterback that he is, right? So now I think with this offensive coordinator, there's potential. Plus, like Rob said, I love the running back room. I think there's a lot of potential. Granted, Brees Hall needs to stay healthy, but Braylon Allen, super young cat, I think he's got potential as that Thunder and Lightning. Herb, like you said, the offensive line, something's got to give. Yeah, with 4 dudes on that line that are drafted in the first 2 rounds, like you'd have to hope that you start seeing some potential from somebody on that line. And then their defense, I like their defense. Maybe not. There's parts of it, like their defensive, their linebackers, I should say, give me a little bit hesitancy along with their safety duo. But their D line, I really can get behind with McDonald, Keenan Williams, Jermaine Johnson, who's coming back from injury. Then you got Quincy Williams as one of the linebackers. He's solid. Then you still have Sauce out there. Yeah, he had a down season last year, but I think that's just a byproduct of the position that they play. Quarterback is, out of all 22 positions out there, probably the one that has the most amount of variance from year to year, unless you're Deion Sanders. But even like Champ Bailey had some seasons in the prime of his career where you look back, it's like, he wasn't that good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I still think he is one of the top 5 best cornerbacks in the league right now. If I had to start a team, I would want Sauce Gardner on that team. But to Rob's point about Aaron Glenn, I am in agreement. I don't know if it's going to pan out. I've never been an advocate for a defensive-minded head coach, especially now in today's NFL where everything's so geared to offense and they're essentially making it so you score more points and making it almost impossible to play defense. You almost have to just lean into it, right? And try and score as many points as you can and figure out the defense later, right? If you can, like in a couple of years, if your defense is giving up 25 points, that might honestly be top 5 in the league, which is crazy to say. But who knows? I think players will get behind him. I think he is a good players coach, whether or not he's brought in the right assistants to make it all cohesive and flow. to TBD, but I like the moves. I think there is, out of
Them and the
all the
Patriots.
teams outside of the Bills in the AFC East, the most potential is with the Jets, in my opinion.
Correct.
I think something we got to keep in mind too that we haven't touched on is the owner is Woody Johnson, and in my opinion, and probably the opinion of many others, Woody Johnson is probably one of the worst owners. And now that obviously the Commanders got a new owner, I think he's one of the worst owners in the NFL. I think he bought the team in 2000, if I remember right, and he's only made the playoffs, 6 times. It's just been the whole Salah situation last year. I think I tell her this all the time, but bad teams are going to do bad owners and bad teams are going to make bad decisions. And
Based
I
off
think
of Madden ratings?
Woody Johnson makes bad decisions. And obviously we had his son fiasco. Do you remember that last year where his son was making decisions in meetings and based off Madden, what he saw in Madden and stuff like that. That got leaked. And also some of the stuff he saw on Hard Knocks. I'm not saying that it can't be turned around and the culture can't shift, but it would take a lot
Can
for
I
me
give a
to
little
kind of
hot
come
take
around,
for the Jets?
come around on the Jets. I would
It's
have
out
to
of
see a
left
lot,
field, but it's a hot little
a big
take.
year for me to be, on the side
Isaiah,
of them
you
having
mentioned
success.
their safety situation. They drafted a kid out of Alabama in the 4th round named Malachi Moore. I don't know if you fellows are familiar with the game of Malachi Moore. My hot take, don't quote me, is that Malachi Moore will not only become a starter throughout the season, we're going to hear, and I don't think he's going to win it, guys. I don't want to hear that kind of nonsense. I think there's going to be a little chatter that Malachi Moore early in that rookie of the year kind of conversation. I think it'll fizzle. I think it'll go away. But don't be shocked when Malachi Moore becomes a name on that defense. Don't quote me, though. Clip that. Save it. I'll see you in a year. I mean, probably, right?
Go ahead and clip that, Isaiah.
We'll
come back to that when he has 3 games played at the end of the season.
But that is a wrap on the AFC East. Let's do a quick run through from each of us of what our final standing projections are going to be. So, Rob, I'll let you start for that.
I mean, this is pending. Obviously, this is now. Obviously, if any injury news or anything comes out before the season, or anything crazy trade happened, but I have the Bills winning the division. Obviously, is that what you wanted me to give the division 1 through 4? Right.
Yep.
I have the Bills winning the division.
You were in such a great Miami place not 10 minutes ago.
Oh man, such a dumpster fire after this. Okay. I wasn't high on Miami. I'm high on Mike McDaniel, but I'm not high on Miami. All right, I think I'll go out and say I think Miami finishes second, and that's not saying much about Miami. They finished second last year at 8-9. All right, so this isn't me saying Miami's going to go out and have a good year. This is me saying I think they finished second. I think that the Patriots finished third. They finished fourth last year. I think they get a little bit better. I think Vrabel brings in that winning culture. I think they take a step forward, although moving up 1 in the division doesn't stream that. But I think we'll start to see some trends and some culture up there in New England after the Belichick era. And then fourth, sadly enough, will be the New York Jets. And Woody Johnson, he loves to fire coaches mid-season. Robert Saleh got axed, even though he was a player's coach and everyone loved him. Woody Johnson said, we're good. So I have the Jets finishing last. That's my breakdown.
I'm going Bills,
so Bills
to win the division, and I think
Dolphins,
when we did their preview, I said
flip
don't be
last
shocked if they
year's.
only
I
win
have
10,
the
11
Patriots
games this
third
year.
and the Jets fourth.
I think the division gets tougher interdivisionally. I still think it's one of the worst divisions in football still. Tough to say that with the Bills sitting in there. I just don't think top to bottom it's as competitive as the AFC North, the NFC North, the NFC West, that type of thing. the AFC West as well, but that's a little more wide open. Give me Bills 1. Good for Josh Allen. Go get him, Tiger. Hey, congrats on getting married, by the way, Josh. 2, give me the Jets, and I want to put the Patriots in there. Give Vrabel a year to get really cooking. So the Jets at 2, the Patriots at 3. Rob, I think you're 100% correct. I think they made a lot of good moves forward. They're still a year or 2 out from being real competitive, but I think a 3 is good. And then Miami, I think Miami, if they win 4 or 5 games, I'm not going to sit here and be shocked at all. So, yeah, Bills, Jets, Pats, Fins.
Yeah, I echo what Herb says. I will say between 2 through 4, there's only one team from this division that's making the playoffs. That's the Bills, obviously. 2 through 4 is a crapshoot. I think the second place team wins 7, 8 games max. So they could finish in any order, but I do lean Jets, Patriots, Dolphins, assuming that the wheels fall off in Miami. Nobody can stay healthy. It kind of is an implosion there. Patriots, like Herb said, another year away. I'm also kind of banking on a sophomore slump a little bit from Drake May. Just going back to our conversation related to their offense and the lack of weapons that they have there, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to score enough points to stay competitive in some games. Jets, on the other hand, I think their defense will continue to be solid, which will keep them in games this season. And I think their rushing attack will be good enough to dictate the pacing of some of these games, where I think they could steal a couple of close ones that maybe they don't in previous years.
Fair. I think that's real fair.
I don't.
That's the AFC East,
I
baby.
don't want to say any
all
other
Buffalo
team will
all
finish
day
above 500 in that division outside of Buffalo.
Please.
That's the AFC East. Let us know in the comments which division you want us to talk next. Otherwise, we'll probably just cycle through the AFC until get through them all, I guess. But that will conclude episode 4. Just want to remind everybody to like, comment, subscribe. Tell your church group, your mom, your dad, your second cousin twice removed, to give the pod a listen.
Tell your side chick about us.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Make sure. And with that being said, we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.